Hi folks, Yasin here, back again with a new video for you today. Today's video is part 2 of my George Lucas video as part of my Star Wars History Archives History Lessons series 4 for the playlist of said YouTube videos on my channel. I'll have a link to the first part of said video for you in the description box. But for now, onward to this one. Please like this video, please share it, please comment on it. Please like this video as well as all my other videos and shorts. Please share it, please comment on it, please subscribe to my channel, and please click the bell for new notifications from me. So here goes. In 1969, Lucas moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area and co-founded the Studio American Zoetrope with Francis Ford Coppola, hoping to create a liberating environment for filmmakers to direct outside the perceived oppressed control of the Hollywood studio system. Coppola thought Lucas's electronic labyrinth could be adapted into his first full-length feature film, which was produced by American Zoetrope as THX 1113, but was not a success. Lucas then created his own company, Lucasfilm Limited, and directed the successful American Graffiti, 1973. Lucas then set his sights on adapting Flash Gordon, an adventure serial from his childhood that he fondly remembered. When he was unable to obtain the rights, he set out to write an original space adventure that would eventually become Star Wars. Despite his success with his previous film, all but one studio turned Star Wars down. It was only because Alan Ladd Jr. at 20th Century Fox liked American Graffiti. Liked American Graffiti, yeah. That he forced through a production and distribution deal for the film, which ended up restoring Fox to financial stability after a number of flops. Star Wars was significantly influenced by samurai films of Akira Kurosawa, spaghetti westerns, as well as classic sword and sorcery fantasy stories. Star Wars quickly became the highest grossing film of all time, displaced 5 years later by Spielberg's E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which, as we all know, was directed by Steven Spielberg. After the success of American Graffiti and prior to the beginning of filming on Star Wars, Lucas was encouraged to renegotiate for a higher fee for writing and directing Star Wars than the US $150,000 agreed, and the $150,000 US agreed. He declined to do so, instead negotiating for advantage in some of his as yet unspecified parts of his contract with Fox. In particular, ownership of licensing and merchandising rights for novelizations, clothing, toys, etc., and a contractual agreement for sequels. All of that to get Empire and Return going? Props to you, sir. Lucas has earned hundreds of millions of dollars from licensed games, toys, and collectibles created for the franchise. The original Star Wars film went through a tumultuous production, and during editing, Lucas suffered chest pains initially feared to be a heart attack. but actually a fit of hypertension and exhaustion. The effort that Lucas had exerted during post production for the film and its subsequent sequels caused strains on his relationship with his wife Marcia and was a contributing factor to their divorce at the end of the trilogy. The success of the first Star Wars film also resulted in more attention focused on Lucas himself, both positive and negative, attracting wealth and fame, but also many people who wanted Lucas's financial backing or just to threaten him. Following the release of the first Star Wars film, A New Hope, Episode 4, A New Hope, Lucas worked extensively as a writer and producer, including on the many Star Wars spin-offs made for film, television, and other media. Lucas acted as executive producer for the next two Star Wars films, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, commissioning Irvin Kershner to direct The Empire Strikes Back and Richard Marquand to direct Return of the Jedi, while receiving a story credit on the former and sharing a screenwriting credit with Lawrence Kasdan on the latter. Lucas also gave away his screenwriting credit out of great respect for Lee Brackett for The Empire Strikes Back after her death from cancer. He also acted as a story writer and executive producer on the first four Indiana Jones films, which his colleague and good friend Steven Spielberg directed. Craig Barron, who worked at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, as part of the mantle painting department, the matte painting department, told Star Wars Insider that Lucas liked to spend time with the department's painters and often spoke of what movies he wanted to make. According to Barron, Lucas had wanted to make a film about Alexander the Great, but the film was ultimately never produced. Projects where Lucas was credited as executive producer and sometimes story writer in this period include Kurosawa's Kagemusha, John Cody's Twice Upon a Time, Ewok's Caravan of Courage, Ewok's Battle for Endor, Mishima, A Life in Four Chapters, Jim Henson's Labyrinth, Ron Howard's Willow. Ron Howard? Wow. Shout out to Ron. And also George, of course. Shout out to Ron Howard, George Lucas, Irvin Kershner, and Richard Marquand, and Steven Spielberg. Side note, how many of you have watched Happy Days back in the day, during your childhoods and so on? Don Bluth's The Land Before Time, and the Indiana Jones television prequel spin-off, The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. There were unsuccessful projects, however, including More American Graffiti, Willard Huyck. How do you pronounce that name? Please tell me in the comments below. Willard H's Howard the Duck, which was the biggest flop of Lucas's career. Coppola's Tucker, The Man and His Dream, and Radioland Murders, directed by Mel Smith. In some cases, George Lucas served as an actual executive producer without being credited, such as in the films Body Heat, Latino, Return to Oz, documentary Powakatsi, Powaqatsi. Also, Star Wars television projects, Holiday Special, Droids, Ewoks, and Clone Wars. The animation studio Pixar was founded in 1979 as the graphics group, one third of the company's division of Lucasfilm. Pixar's early computer graphics research resulted in a digital film called The Adventures of Andre and Willie and Wally B, and groundbreaking effects in films such as Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Young Sherlock Holmes, and the group was purchased in 1986 by Steve Jobs, shortly after he left Apple Computer. Jobs paid Lucas $5 million and put $5 million as capital into the company. The sale reflected Lucas's desire to stop the cash flow losses from his 7-year research projects associated with new entertainment technology tools, as well as his company's new focus on creating entertainment rather than tools. As of June 1983, Lucas was worth $60 million, but he met cash flow difficulties following his divorce that year. Concurrent with the sudden drop-off in revenues from Star Wars licenses following the theatrical run of Return of the Jedi. At this point, Lucas had no desire to return to Star Wars and had unofficially cancelled the sequel trilogy. So the sequel trilogy was initially going to happen. Lucas, formerly a member of the Writers Guild of America West, left and maintained financial core status in 1981. Also in 83, Lucas and Tomilson Holman, founder of the audio company THX. The company was formerly owned by Lucasfilm and contains equipment for stereo, digital, and theater sounds for films and music. Skywalker Sound and Industrial Light and Magic are the sound and visual effects subdivisions of Lucasfilm, while Lucasfilm Games, later renamed LucasArts, produces products for the gaming industry. Having lost much of his fortune in a divorce settlement in 1987, Lucas was hesitant on making additional Star Wars features. However, the prequels, while still only a series of ideas partially pulled from his original drafts of the Star Wars, as was initially named, continued to tantalize him with technical possibilities that would make it worthwhile to revisit his older material. When Star Wars became popular once again in the wake of Dark Horse's comic book line and Timothy Zahn's trilogy of spin-off novels, Lucas realized that there was still a large audience. His children were older, and with the explosion of CGI technology, he began to consider directing once again. By 1993, it was announced in Variety, among other sources, that Lucas would be making the prequels. He began penning more to the story, indicating that the series would be a tragic one, examining Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader. Lucas also began to change the status of the prequels relative to the originals, At first, they were supposed to be a filling in of history tangential to, tangential to the originals, but now he saw that they could form the beginning of one long story that started with Anakin's childhood and ended with his death. This was the final step towards turning the film series into a saga. In 1994, Lucas began work on the screenplay of the first prequel, tentatively titled Episode 1 The Beginning. In 1997, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Star Wars, Lucas restored the original trilogy and made numerous modifications using newly available digital technology to bring them closer to his original version. The films were re-released in theaters as the special editions. The trilogy received further modifications and restorations for DVD releases in 2004, Blu-ray releases in 2011, and 4K releases released in 2019. Additionally, Lucas released a director's cut of THX 1138 in 2004, with the film recut and containing a number of CGI additions. The first Star Wars prequel was finished and released in 1999 as Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, which would be the first film Lucas had directed in over 2 decades. Following the release of the first prequel, Lucas announced that he would also be directing the next two, and began working on Episode 2. The first draft of Episode 2 was completed just 2 weeks before principal photography, and Lucas hired Jonathan Hales, a writer from the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, to polish it. It was completed and released in 2002 as Attack of the Clones. The final prequel film, Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, began production in 2002 and was released in 2005. Numerous older fans and critics at the time considered the prequels more mixed compared to the original trilogy, though they were box office successes and popular with younger fans. In 2004, Lucas reflected that his transition from independent to corporate filmmaker mirrored the story of Star Wars character Darth Vader in some ways, but concluded he was glad to be able to make his films the way he wanted to. Lucas collaborated with Jeff Nathanson as a writer of the 2008 film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, directed by Steven Spielberg. Similar to the Star Wars prequels, the reception was mixed with fans and critics alike. From 2008 to 2014, Lucas also served as the creator and executive producer for a second Star Wars animated series on Cartoon Network, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which premiered with a feature film of the same name before airing of its first episode. The supervising director for this animated series was Dave Filoni, who was chosen by Lucas and closely collaborated with him on its development. The series bridged the events between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and featured the last Star Wars stories in which Lucas was involved in a more major way. In 2012, Lucas self-funded and served as executive producer for Red Tails, a war film based on the exploits of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. He also took over directing of reshoots, while director Anthony Hemingway worked on other projects. I'm gonna cut it here for now, folks, because this is gonna turn out to be a very long video, and I want to split it up into as many parts as I can for you folks. So I'll be back later. I'll be back later on for part 3 of this video. But for now, I'm gonna cut it here. Please like this video, please share it, please comment on it, please subscribe to my channel, and please click the bell for new notifications from me. Also, I need to properly schedule. I know I keep saying I'll be back later or tomorrow, but really and truly, I know I keep saying later or tomorrow, but I have other things happening in addition to making YouTube videos for you. Either later or tomorrow, I'll make part 3 of this video for you. I'll let you know. I'll keep you informed. But for now, that's it. Please like this video, please share it, please comment on it, please subscribe to my channel, and please click the bell for new notifications from me. But that's all for now. Bye.